Welcome back to the channel. Today we are back in the shop working on everyone's favorite D21, Yoshi. This is the most watched, the most liked, and probably the most popular car on my channel. Obviously the cheapest one as well. I think I have 2,500 bucks or 3,000 bucks in this thing. It makes probably 250 horse on 250,000 mile KA. Today we are going to retrofit the front knuckles, at least the steering arm on each knuckle to give it a little bit more steering. Just like some of you, I have had a really hard time trying to slide this truck. It doesn't like to come back to center when you release the wheel. So we're hoping to fix that when we cut the knuckles and get a little bit more angle. Also, it needs front brakes. If you watched my last video, you'll know why. It was basically metal to metal. Well, we're about to see. And it needs a handbrake. So instead of doing like a dual caliper or a rear axle swap or a rear disc conversion, we are actually going to utilize the emergency brake, which is just utilizing the shoes in the rear drums with the hand lever. So I don't know exactly how it's going to work, but we're going to make it happen. We're going to get the tires off, we're going to get the brakes apart, we're going to change the brake pads first thing, I'm going to pull the steering apart, we're going to cut them and weld them, and hopefully we're going to get some kind of handbrake apparatus welded into the interior. Yeah, I don't know that yet, but we're going to figure it out. Well, oh my God. Hot. Did you notice there was only 2 lug nuts on each front wheel? Because I never looked the last time I drove it. Well, I got good news. The brakes look good. This one doesn't rub. Hear that? I thought that was metal to metal. It is, but it's just the dust shroud, dude. I must have hit something freaking and just bent her all up, man. What even happened to this thing? Everybody in the comments, don't do that to your rotor, dude. It's fine. I lied. The rear pad is gone. Good Lord. We're gonna mark our steering arm where it connects to the knuckle, just to give us a reference when we take off the top. This will increase our steering angle and hopefully the responsiveness of the steering. I know the angle will increase, but I don't know if we'll get the responsiveness we're looking for. These ones basically are done. That one over there, I'll show you when I get it out. It's done. All right, now we get this castle nut off, take out the cotter pin. Alright, so what you're left with is 2 very poorly made steering knuckle bracket thing, whatever. So on these ones, this is the passenger side and this is the driver's side. These are the steering stops so that it doesn't over-rotate and become locked. But we'll get this thing cut. This is cast iron, so you have to make sure you weld this with the correct filler rod and you bring it up to temperature when you're welding it. If you have a nice welder, you can actually use the TIG and you can heat the metal up prior to actually starting to weld. And that'll achieve the same effect as if you were to use a MIG and using a torch to warm up the metal prior. So let's hack these off, clean them up, shorten them a bit, measure both, make sure they're square, and then put them back in and get some brakes in the thing and go take it for a test drive. Now that we cut the steering stop off, we're going to chop off the pickup point for the tie rod, shorten it probably about 1 inch. I'll figure out where I want it and then I'll tack it, put it on, kind of see how the geometry of the steering works, and then I might move it just a little bit more, but probably about 1 inch. Kind of just eyeballed this. I wish I had an answer for you in regards to an exact measurement and all that, but I don't, and it's really not that important. What is important is getting the weld deep and penetrate all the way to the center of this rod. It's going to be offset just a little bit to keep the pickup point away from the dust shield on the rotor assembly. It will allow it to move without binding up inside of that little area. And then you end up with something like this. So you take one of these and you make it into one of these. Bring this up to temp and use the TIG on about 200 amps. The main thing with cast iron is when you have a crack in something, so you have a crack in a manifold, you can grind it, bevel it out, and fill it. But what's happening is the rest of that manifold is acting as a heat sink. So it's just pulling the heat away from your weld too quickly. So when it starts to cool off afterwards, that crack is going to continue because the rest of the manifold will be pulling on it. When you have two separate pieces, the rest of this and the pickup point, it's relaxed. You're connecting two pieces together so there's not the rest of the material trying to pull those two sections apart. You'll have success doing this as long as you prep it well. Clean off all of the mill scale, all the paint, all the rust, and all the imperfections in the metal. Preheat both sides and use a lot of amperage. And you should have a successful weld every time. If you're not comfortable welding cast iron, I do not suggest doing it, especially on steering components. Unless you like hitting walls, then go nuts. I don't have a thermometer, so we're just gonna kind of guess on it. It's been heating up for about 3 minutes now, so it's gotta be, I don't know, hot enough. Yeah, that's 200 amps. She is kicking. Got them all welded up. They are a beautiful shade of blue because that's the only paint I had. So, oh well. Gonna get these things installed. Gonna check the steering, make sure it doesn't bind up in any way, and then I may remove the actual steering stops that are attached to the lower control arms just to get a little bit more angle if possible. We'll see what we get out of these. And then we're moving on to the e-brake. I have no idea how we're gonna do that yet, so we'll figure it out. So, passenger side noise was definitely the pad. New pad, probably about 1/4 of an inch to 3/8 thick. Maybe it's a 1/2 inch thick, I'm not sure. But the old pads probably still have a couple thousand miles left on them. We just wanted to replace them before, you know, we got down to the rotor. Look at that. I need nuts, but you know, it's all there. These are the bump stops that I think we're gonna probably get rid of. What they do is they stop the steering arm from over rotating and getting locked, but they're so short now I don't think they will, but we're gonna find out. What I'm gonna do is, if you look on this side where it hits that bump stop down there, after we weld those and adjust them, we'll move on to that e-brake. We got some pretty good angle out of this thing. Still rotates there. We're having an issue with a little bit of rubbing. So these are 205/75/14s, and they are they're pretty meaty right here, and that's going to be our issue when we rotate all the way to the left. It's going to rub on that idler arm. Rose free, and it hits right there. Can't move it. So solution. Run some tiny little jobbers up front. Modified the knuckles, cut off the bump stops. I'm gonna paint that once I get some black paint, and then eventually move on to a nicer front setup if this works well. I just need nuts and front tires, and all of this should work just fine. I'm gonna take you in there and show you kind of what my thought is. It has new brake shoes in the rear, and we're gonna be utilizing that brake mechanism for the emergency brake, but I know I probably look great, don't I? What we're gonna do is, this is the emergency brake. So when you pull it, it locks, but when you keep it rotated straight up and down, it releases. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna weld a plate right here, and I'm gonna use kind of like an angled handbrake. We'll pull the seats out, we'll pull the carpet out, and we'll see what kind of substructure we have underneath the carpet, because I know these things are basically built out of recycled Coke cans, and that's why when you crash them, you typically don't survive. But Anyway, let's keep building a race car out of a D21. Yeah. Bro! Ah, there we go. Well, like I said, basically nothing there. We're gonna put a plate probably right here. Oh yeah, dude. Oh wow. Oh, we're lucking out today, biz. Alright, here's my idea. Oh wow, I just guessed that angle. And then we're gonna notch it, and then notch it down, bolt through, boom. This is it. It's not square, but that's because the chassis is not square. So it's pretty rudimentary, but once I weld it in, it'll probably look pretty good. And I picked up some gray spray paint, so it doesn't have to be blue. So that's good. So to fix the rubbing issue, we have to go to a smaller tire. This is a 205/75, and we're going to a 275/65. It should give us enough clearance so that we can weld in the new stops for the steering. Hopefully, it doesn't look too funny. Pretty good. Oh yeah. So we got rubbage there. So we're gonna need to weld in a new bump stop right here and get this thing, or right down here, to get it to keep from locking up this wheel, because that would not be good. Steering stop. Woo! That's pretty close, dude. Just a little more. It's fine. Woo! Yeah, it's good. I had to come back to the house. I need to make the handle for the new brake. This is an inch hex bar, and it weighs an absolute shit ton. We'll probably have to take off about an 1/8 inch of material. Just has to allow this to slide on so I can use this as the handle. I might not like it, but it's kind of all I have for now, so. It's not perfect, but that's okay. It's not like we're building an axle. Sure. Oh yeah. Let's go. Now we're gonna get inside. We're gonna start installing the handbrake with this lathe, and we're going to get it off the rack because I can't get the seats out while it's still on the rack. And working with the seats in there is kind of a pain in the ass. Plus I need to put the handle in and kind of put the seat in and see where it sits, and then kind of adjust it from there. And we still need to figure out how we're going to connect it to the emergency brake. So I lowered it so much that it won't even come off the lift. It's stuck on the pedestals. Look at those cute little tires, bro. God, it's adorable. Oh my god, it's still not going to come off. Yeah, except like bend over to work on it. I think it's on the bump stops. Gotta chop them out, huh? Oh, dude. Okay, this is the idea. But it might need to be at an angle, just a skosh. A little doohickey with 2 hinges. Hinge here and a hinge on this. Should work pretty well. I drilled a hole through the e-brake handle because I want to retain the actual handle itself, and I'm going to replace this bolt with a pin so that when I'm not using the handbrake, just, you know, going to get groceries and I can use the handbrake if I need to. We'll see how many times I take it out to use the handbrake or use the e-brake, but for now we're just going to bolt it together. I got this rod. I'm going to put a spacer in between it just so that the rubber doesn't kind of bind on it. And this goes right there. This will keep it from locking, just like that. And then your handle will go right here at an angle. Hey, yo, did you come to inspect the work? Bro, come here. Look. Come look. Look at it. So tell me, bro, what you think? Pretty sick? Do you approve? Huh? Yeah? Yeah? It's good? Woo! There it is. I need to get a bolt for that, and then this will rotate once you put a bolt in it because the handle moves. You can tell it's just a it's just a lag screw for now, but we will get this thing bolted together, get the seat back in, lower the back a little bit. We're gonna get this thing on the road, test drive it, make sure it feels okay, make sure the steering doesn't lock or anything weird. Hopefully get everything ready for tomorrow. Tomorrow is an open track day. It's gonna be for No Coast Drift Party practice, basically. There is a new segment of track out at Suica, and I'm pretty excited to go hit it. I'm not taking the 240, so I can't hit it as hard as I'd like, but Yoshi is the low-cost drift budget kind of deal, and it's really nice to not spend $1,000 going to the track. This thing probably costs, tires all in all, 3 sets. You could probably get away going to the track for an entire day for under $300, which is, I mean, you can't beat that. All right, we got it bolted together. I mean, works pretty good. Let's see what she can do, huh? Yeah, the steering angle is aggressive. Oh, we're out of gas. We're a little out of gas, dude. That'll be it for this video. The truck runs great. It'll probably need a clutch here relatively soon. It doesn't like to hang in second gear very well, and we're short like 4 PSI on the gauge. I'm gonna mess with the vacuum lines because there's no boost controller right now. I'm kind of just using it as like a controlled orifice that lets it bleed off just a little bit. So I'm gonna adjust that and it should be good to go. But subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell because the next video will be going out to No Coast Drift Party Prep. Basically just an open track day where I'll be giving ride-alongs to absolutely everyone. I'm trying to get as many people in this seat as possible. So stay tuned for that video and I hope to see you out there.